Christie?
Yes, we are now live.
All right, good evening, everyone. This is Wednesday, June 9th. It's 5:31 p.m. and this is a joint work session between the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners and the Lincoln City Council. I'm Doug Hunt. I'm chair of the Board of Commissioners, and the first thing on our agenda is introductions. We have one commissioner present, Commissioner Hall, one additional commissioner present. Commissioner Hall is excused. So I'll let my fellow commissioner introduce herself.
Good evening, everybody. This is Katie Jacobson. I'm one of the Lincoln County Commissioners.
All right, so we have two commissioners, which does constitute a quorum for the Board of Commissioners. And I will turn over introductions for the Lincoln City Council to Acting Mayor Judy Casper. Welcome, Judy. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I will look in my tiny boxes here and introduce our council members. Their heads are so small, I'm not sure who they are. I see Councilman Rick Mark, Mayor-elect Susan Welke. I think I see Stephanie Reed. Is that correct? I think I see Lila Bradley, our interim city manager. And that may or may not be Mr. Apicella, our city attorney. Is that correct? And then I see some blank spaces where our councilors may or may not be. If you're present, please introduce yourselves. Oh, I see Allison, right? Allison, are you there?
Is it?
Our Economic Development Director. And anybody else present? Is Councilor Hoagland here? Is Councilor Parsons here?
Councilor Parsons is here. I'm just showing up as a phone number.
Okay, your phone number. Is Councilor Anne Marie Skinner with us? Perhaps not at this time. All right, I think that's everybody that's present from our area. If I've missed you, please speak up and say kind things. Okay,
All
I
right.
think that's it, Commissioner.
All right, well, I think you certainly have a quorum of your group too. Just so I'm clear, Anne Marie and Riley are the two that are missing?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, just helps me as we move through the agenda. So we do have an agenda, and it was suggested that after the last, or before adjournment, which would be the last item, between Public Works and adjournment, that we had an item for other discussion. Some interesting topics may come up. So if there's nothing else as far as the agenda, let's move on to the first item, which would be canals and property deeds. And I think, did Commissioner Jacobson, did you have some comments, or maybe we can get some direction from the city councilors?
I'm not sure exactly what they had in mind, so I think if they could provide some direction, that would be helpful.
And with that, I'm going to tap on our city manager, Lila Bradley.
Judy,
Yes.
before we get started, I
Yes.
don't believe we have a quorum.
We don't.
Councilor Welke, Mayor Welke is not sworn in, so we have Judy and Rick, but
And Parsons, Mitch.
and Parsons, but that's only three.
Okay,
I don't
3
think
of
we were
5,
planning
no?
on making any decisions tonight, though. No.
I guess we could technically just attend the Board of County Commissioners meeting. But I'm gonna see if I can text Riley and Anne Marie.
Mr. Apicella, Mr.
Yes.
Ms. Welke.
there are
Okay,
only
hold on.
5 people right now. There's only 5, so 3 seems to be a quorum. And it,
I did text Riley and Anne Marie a minute ago, haven't heard back.
I'm not sure it's critical that we have a quorum. I was just making note of it for the record. Maybe it's best to say you don't have a quorum, but we'll continue to have a discussion.
And we're at this point attending your meeting.
Okay, fair enough. We're glad to have invited you to our meeting.
We're glad to be here.
All right, so back to canals and property deeds. Help us with an idea of what the concerns or what the discussion should focus on.
Okay,
Lila?
this is Lila Bradley. Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Lila.
So we are looking at the two county properties. We've had a discussion with city council, and so we're still in that discussion. We did a little PowerPoint for them. And those were part of the properties that came up during the last meeting, as you had a list of properties that you wanted the city to take over. And so the aerial, we're still discussing the canals. We haven't come to any consensus on that one. But the other deeds have been misplaced, and I need to get renewed copies of those so that we can follow through and get those signed off and onto the city. And I'm not sure.
This is Wayne Bell, County Council. I guess I'm a little confused that we actually had 14 properties we offered to the city, including 2 canals. The city actually, because the city manager was authorized to accept those deeds were accepted and have been recorded. And I had thought that at one point somebody requested copies of the recorded deeds, and we had provided those to the city manager's office at that time. I'd be happy to do that again. But the 2 that were, it was the 2 canal properties that were not accepted by the city at that time. And so it sounds like you're reconsidering. Yeah, we actually have an order, the board authorized the conveyance of those properties, they just were never accepted by the city. So if you want to revisit that particular question and decide that you would like those, I don't think it requires any further action by the board because they've already authorized conveyance.
Very good. And no wonder I couldn't find those deeds since they were already.
And Lila, I'll be happy to send those to you. Copy.
I should have given you a call on that one.
Okay.
So just to confirm, with the exception of the 2 canal properties, the other properties have been conveyed to the city. And as, if I understood Council Belmont correctly, the board has authorized the conveyance of all the properties. So it's a matter of the paperwork between the county, which would be, I guess, through Council Belmont's office and Lila, to complete the paperwork for the transfer of the 2 canal properties. Is that correct?
That is correct. And Lila, just to confirm, we're talking about Lincoln County Assessor's Map 71115 AD, tax lots 00799 and 00700. That's the 2.
I believe so.
Yeah, those were authorized for conveyance to the city.
Okay, very good. Thanks for checking me out.
Okay. Anything else on canals or property deeds? That was easy. All right, let's move on to emergency management. I believe our emergency manager, Jenny Demiros, is with us tonight. Or am I misreading my screen? No, there's Jenny.
Yep, I'm here.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm on the agenda, but I'm not sure who invited me or what it was that was needed to be discussed.
I'll look to Judy.
You're looking to me, Lila?
Yes, that was me. I just thought a bit of an update would be in order after all of the emergency things we've been through, and same with health and human services. If you just tell us where we're at with plans and those types of things, anything you think is pertinent right now.
Sure, I would be happy to, Lila. So probably the most important thing that I feel is valued right now is we are undertaking a mass care and sheltering plan development with our other sister counties in EM Region 1. which is Lincoln, Benton, Lynn, Polk, Marion, and Yamhill counties. That was a state Homeland Security grant application that we put in last January. Well, yeah, it was last January. And we were successful in that grant opportunity. And so that will actually provide us with a countywide mass care and sheltering plan. And it will also include all of the addendums that we would need to be able to implement shelter operations outside of the American Red Cross. Most generally, most counties or communities rely on the Red Cross, but we know that they do not have enough volunteers at the local level to be able to do more than sort of one full operational setup. So our goal is, in other words, we're sort of adopting the Red Cross into the public safety family here in Lincoln County, and we have lots of things going on with them, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So that plan will enable us as the county, you as the city, and our Confederated Tribes of Select Indians to actually have a working plan with all the bells and whistles that you would need if you had to implement a community shelter on your own. Now, do take into consideration that it will not necessarily provide you with all of the tools that you would need in a Cascadia type event, a very catastrophic event, but the framework of how you would put together a shelter with limited resources will be there. So that's one part, that's one big plan. Your Fire Defense Board has recently just finished our first ever countywide multi-casualty and medical surge plan. We also were successful in obtaining grant funds through Oregon Health Authority through their healthcare preparedness program. And we had a delay of about 6 or 8 months with that due to the Echo Mountain fire, but we're now back on board. We've just recently met with all of our partners and we will be finishing up that plan. That also, again, is that continuity of services for the end user, which would be those that are affected by an emergency or disaster. It will allow us to have more flow between the 8 different fire districts that we have in our 2 ASA ambulance service area providers and our 2 local healthcare hospitals. So again, another great improvement for Lincoln County and showing that continuity between all of our public safety and healthcare cooperators. Let's see, I think there's another plan. We updated the debris management plan right before Echo Mountain Fire with our new solid waste coordinator, Paul Seitz. Great addition to Lincoln County. He and I were able to go through that plan last summer and get it up to date, and that's been taken care of. You should be familiar with the Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan. We were all successful in updating our county plan and your city addendum plan at the tail end of 2020, so that has served us well. Because as we move forward and looking to apply for those hazard mitigation grants, that will allow you the checkbox when you apply for those grants that you are qualified to apply for those hazard mitigation grants. Looking forward, the next thing that will be coming up on our docket, we are applying for funds through FEMA for a countywide recovery plan. We're not the only county in the state that doesn't have a recovery plan. It is sort of kind of the last one you get to when you're kind of redoing everything and trying to make more things countywide. I think there will be several counties across the state that will also be applying for that. As a point of example, the state just finished their statewide recovery plan, I think at the tail end of 2019, first part of 2020. So we're really not too far behind, but this will be a great addition. And then the mass care plan, as well as a county recovery plan, if we're successful in those funds. Each of the cities in our tribal partner will be a participant in that process as we go forward. Let's see, I know there's one more plan I'm thinking of. So let's move to equipment. Some exciting news that's coming. We were successful in applying for additional grant funding to augment our new volunteer group through public health, which is the Medical Reserve Corps. We had sort of a core group, about 15 or so, before we started doing public health COVID vaccine clinics. And now I think we're well over about 45 or 50 of people that will stay with us even after the clinics, the mobile clinics are done being utilized. So if you have that many volunteers and they have a purpose and a mission, then you have to give them the equipment and resources that they need in order to be successful in their volunteer role. Because they are medical healthcare volunteers, they require medical equipment. So we had requested funds the prior year, and we repurposed the trailer that public health upgraded to a larger trailer, and so we gave the smaller trailer to the Medical Reserve Corps group. So now they have a trailer and they have the basic supplies that we're able to get them. But after the Echo Mountain prior and really having a better understanding of our community needs for those that may be considered medically fragile when they evacuate. This was absolutely one of the highest priorities for emergency management, public health, and our elected officials for the county is to secure additional funding to be able to augment and support that medical fragile clinic. We know that the Red Cross has pretty much most all of the resources that they need here in Lincoln County and their mobile trailers to activate shelters. But when you look at a medically fragile population, they do require extra needs. And so we were successful in obtaining another $28,000 through our Oregon Health Authority healthcare preparedness grant to be able to augment those services, have everything mobile, ready to go, so that we could have a full medical fragile shelter when needed. Also, another benefit to COVID is the extra supplies and resources that the public health team has had to purchase for those clinics will then be incorporated into our inventory for disaster response. So that will benefit us as well. One last piece on two more items for grants. We had applied for the SPIRA grant. Apologies, I can't remember what the acronym is, but it's through the Oregon Legislative Funds. And that SPIRA grant, we were told that we were awarded, but we were sort of in line behind all the other projects until they got to ours, which is a mass casualty trailer. So now we have a countywide mass casualty plan that all of our partners agree on. And now we are going to have a very, very comprehensive multi-casualty trailer that we will be able to use. And I believe our thought through the Fire Defense Board and the two ASA providers will be is that prior to a large event where we know we will have many people, such as Seafood and Wine Festival, even maybe the Kite Festival, the Salmon Bake, Beachcombers, and I think Wallport, that we would actually take that trailer and then pre-position it in that community somewhere outside of where the event takes place, so that if that community actually has a mass casualty event for whatever reason, then that trailer would be very nearby and would be accessible for first responders to be able to use almost immediately. And I believe the dollar value of that particular trailer is somewhere around $90,000. It actually has the capacity to be able to do patient care treatments in the trailer. So again, great asset for Lincoln County Public Safety and health partners that just checks that next box. Again, we're getting those resources that we need. Then the last kind of smaller one, our auxiliary communications team, who does the amateur radio for the county. We had secured funding 2 cycles ago to get them a mobile trailer and outfit it with what they needed, which sometimes when you move into a new house, you realize, oh, maybe we didn't have everything that we wanted. They restructured the way they do the state Homeland Security grant, and it allowed us to have allocated funds for the county to decide how they wanted to use, which would be non-competitive. So we applied for funds through auxiliary communications to purchase the items, an awning, a couple generators, all kinds of things that they needed to really make that trailer more functional. And so we were successful in that. So we about $11,000. We were also successful in obtaining funds through that state Homeland Security grant for the CERT chapters of Lincoln County. Throughout COVID, you saw them doing the public face covering distribution. They helped at the clinics. They were parking attendants. But what we found is none of them had good exterior jackets. In the early days of CERT, jackets were provided because money was available, but then as time has gone by, it was harder and harder to find the funds to outfit the volunteers. And so they collectively made a decision that if they were going to apply for something, it would be to do a purchase of the original type jackets, which are exterior jackets, which are brightly colored. They have the coloring on there so it's safe for them and to keep the inclement weather off of them. So we were successful in that, and that will be about $7,000 to be able to help benefit those volunteers who clearly supported their communities over the last 18 months. So that's plans, training, grants. Of course, some of you may be familiar with Cascadia Rising 2022. We've put out invitations. Ken Murphy, your city emergency manager, is well on board with us as a team player to help the city of Lincoln City plan out what your objectives will be to participate in that exercise. And I believe this time, 5 years ago in 2016, we were all participating in the last Cascadia Rising exercise. The exciting upgrade to this next year's Cascadia Rising exercise is it's not a regional exercise. This will be one of the first times the Pacific Northwest has actually been designated as a national or federal exercise. So the good work that we did in 2016 emphasized to the federal government that they need to take Cascadia seriously, they need to practice that, and they elevated our regional exercise in June of 2022 to a full-scale national exercise. So for you and me on the street down here at home, we may not really see what that means for a federal disaster exercise, but I do have firsthand understanding of all the bells and whistles that will be turned with multiple federal departments participating at the same time, as you will as a mayor here in Lincoln City, as a commissioner, as me as your county emergency manager, your CERT chapters, your volunteers will all have a role to play, however the city would like to. I'd like to roll out your exercise on your part, so everyone has an opportunity to participate. And again, it will be just an amazing opportunity to demonstrate a national level exercise from the local level all the way up to the presidential level for Cascadia Rising. So we've come a very long way. So Lila, is there anything else in particular I could address for you?
That really covers it for me. Our council may, and our mayor may have something to add or ask.
I have a question.
Yes.
Jenny, where is the casualty trailer stored? I'm just curious.
Yep, so we don't have it as of yet. It's been ordered by the state, and we hope to have delivery in maybe 4 to 6 weeks. But this particular trailer will be stored here in Newport with the county hub. We have all of our other disaster supply cache trailers here. But again, when we identify that a community is having a event, a large population, then we will pre-position it to that community in advance.
And would any of those resources be applied to like some of the CERT trailers in various areas? Will they be supplied as well?
So the community emergency response team trailers are their own chapter, which is a part of that fire district. So the CERT chapter that supports the city of Lincoln City is under your North Lincoln Fire and Rescue. So the resources and products or items that they have in their trailer is most generally funded through fundraising or directly through the fire district.
Thank you.
Yes.
And one more. I assume we'll be hearing I'm on a roll. I'm assuming we'll be hearing more about a schedule laid out, so it will open up our participation.
For
Prior to the-
Cascadia Rising?
Yeah.
Yes, so your city emergency manager, Ken Murphy, is your lead for the city. So what will happen is we are working at the state level and then sort of the county level. We've had our kickoff meeting, we have our planning team in place. And so Ken Murphy is your leader person. And so he will be working with you for city government to determine what your goals, what your objectives, what days of play. The exercise is actually 4 days long, which most governments can't participate a full 4 days. So what we will do at a county and a city level and tribal is sort of cherry pick what works best for us. We may play an afternoon here, all day Tuesday, half day Thursday. We know for the county that we will be participating all day the Saturday before the exercise starts. The one thing that they tend to overlook is that our volunteers need to practice on weekends. And so we will be initiating our own exercise on Saturday, full scale. We're going to be setting up shelters. The CERT teams have got some great ideas for doing damage assessment through neighborhoods and a simulated auxiliary communication. So just like we did in 2016, it will be a very robust week of different things happening at different times. But yes, you will have every opportunity to participate in the planning.
And the promotion of this will also be through the county, through your office?
So actually the promotion to the general public, it probably will start at the federal and the state level. Probably about 3 months out is when they'll start communicating. They generally do a free education to the general populace about Cascadia. What does it mean to you? What can you do? Did you know that your local and state and federal governments are going to be participating in exercise? In our planning, we actually have our planning document broken up into lead up activities. So many exercises There's a line item specifically for public outreach, how we can engage the public and involve them either in planning, communication, or actually exercises that they can do at home. One of the things that we're thinking about doing is testing our help okay signs. So we'll may pick a day where we encourage them to do their help okay signs, and then the CERT chapters, wherever they may be, will use that as a way to do a damage assessment simulated. How many help okay signs do they actually see in a given neighborhood? And that sort of gives us, a survey, if you will, of how many people either participated or may have their help okay sign. But yes, engagement with the public is one of our priorities.
Great. Any other question? Yes, Counselor Mark, do you have your hand up, or is that a flower behind your head? Oh, okay. Yes.
Probably both. I know it's.
Oh. Okay.
I just, thanks, I just thought I'd mention a couple things. Number one, Councilor Hoagland is here.
Oh.
There was just a chat note from your attorney that Lincoln City now has a quorum, so you're no longer our guests, we're partners.
And I also mentioned that I did communicate with our other Councilor Anne Marie Skinner, who reminded me that she did let us know at our last meeting that she was not going to be able to attend tonight for family personal reasons, and she's flying back east right now. I just thought I'd mention I'm trying to sign on as the League of Cities representative to a statewide group called the State Interoperability Executive Council. It has to do with improving communications in emergencies among municipalities. I think mostly emergency departments. And I was at my first meeting in May when Sheriff Flanders and Jenny Damaris were both in attendance. And I'm just getting my feet wet there. It's highly technical stuff, but I'm hoping to be in a position to make a pitch for, and I also mentioned we had a League of Cities, Small Cities meeting a month or two ago, and there's great interest in improving our use of electric reader boards along highways. One of the lessons, one of the many lessons we got out of the Echo Mountain fire was how many people felt that they weren't getting the information. They didn't know where to go for information, were left stranded and scared without getting the information that they needed. And so looking for ways to improve that. So I'm hoping, electric signboards is one idea. I'm hoping we can maybe work toward finding out if there's ways to improve broadband or internet connectivity in rural areas. So those are sorts of things that I'm hoping to at least voice, concern about. I don't know how useful I'll really be. And I just thought I'd mention that the tribe, Celeste Tribe, has opened up space for several FEMA trailers off of Logan Road up near where the casino is. And that has been, I've just driven past there, to tell you the truth, but it looks like that's been a great help for a lot of the Echo Mountain people. So I want to thank the county effort, whatever they did to help that. And I also want to mention, I volunteered a few times at the vaccine clinic down at the Newport Fairgrounds, and the county effort there was fantastic. So I just wanted to thank you all for what you've done there. And Lincoln County, I think, is a shining example of success when it comes to the COVID vaccinations. And I think that's all I have.
Great.
Well, I might offer Commissioner Jacobson the opportunity to comment on the FEMA housing. I know she was heavily involved in that. And then I have a kind of a follow-up question to your comments, Councilor Mark. And I'll direct that to Ms. Damaris in a moment. But Commissioner Jacobson?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Hunt. I would say that we had very little to do with the FEMA trailer. We had some things to do in the beginning. We put together basically all the pieces of property we knew of that were publicly owned. That's what FEMA wanted, was publicly owned property, not private property. So we gave them everything, including property the city of Lincoln City owned and ODOT sites, school district. everything, and then they kind of have their own internal processes they go through. There was some permitting things with water that we had to deal with the planning in, but very little. Most of it was really the tribe and FEMA that did the heavy lifting. And I will say that FEMA did tell us this was the first time they ever had, in like the history of FEMA, they ever had an agreement with the tribe to house non-tribal members.
All right.
I just have, I tell people this a lot because I think it just speaks to how our tribe is just such an amazing partner. We of course already knew that, right? But just amazing that they would do that, and it's the first time that FEMA has ever had that kind of partnership before.
Well, and I've said many times, and I think it's fairly well known within the county that when it comes to the relationship between the Siletz tribe and our county, it's really the shining example of how it's done right. It's not very common within a state where the tribe and the board of commissioners get along as well as we do in our county. So, hats off really to the tribe and Chair Bigsley and the other council members. It's a great partnership. I wanted to go back to communication. I think Councilor Mark, you talked a little bit about that during the wildfire. Jenny, I'd just be interested. I know there's been lots of activities in an effort to address some of the challenges, and certainly not interested in pointing fingers or determining blame, but what are some of the things that we're working on, or that maybe we can do better next time as far as overall communication during that crisis?
So a couple things. One, your public information officer, Casey Miller, hosted a media pre-season briefing. So I think probably the majority of our media partners chose to participate in that. And so that was really providing an opportunity with the media partners to identify, are they signed up for Flash Alert? Are they getting the right information? Do they have the contact information? We have now created an after hours media list that will be in our public safety Everbridge group. So the information that has been provided to Casey, we can, just like we would contact you, Commissioner, or incoming mayor, we can send you an after hours notice that something is taking place. We need your attention. We need you to stand by. And for the media, it would be, could you participate, get on the air, get your social media, whatever their medium might be. So I think that will become an annual process for public information to meet with all of the media providers to be able to answer their questions. We have sometimes a rotating leadership in the media world where new folks are coming in, and that is an annual way for us to make sure we've got the most up-to-date information. They know who we are, we know how they're going to receive information, when they should expect information. And so that will, I think, really help on the media part. For us as cooperators, we did start our cooperator briefings, I think, within 72 hours after Echo Mountain Fire started. A couple things that will be beneficial is having some additional staff to be able to do more narrative updates, to be able to provide to the cooperators, not just waiting for those sort of in-person virtual meetings. And then we may actually switch to doing cooperator meetings twice a day, or we may have all cooperators once a day, and then those cooperators that are most affected, maybe have them meet a second time later in the day, so maybe morning or afternoon. That's something I've heard from some of my other peers that they have migrated to as well, is having more opportunities for virtual meetings such as this to be able to get them to have that one-to-one information. Also, I think our annual tabletop exercises that we do with our cooperators has been effective in the past. And this year, we had over 74 people that were on our tabletop exercise for this year. From utilities to public safety, we've invited our adjacent partners, so South County, Siuslaw Fire District. We invited over towards Benton County, North County, so that we would make sure that our corresponding neighbors understood how we were going to operate, how we would be communicating with them if any of those hazard areas would cross over lines. So again, I think that's a way to make sure everybody's on the same page before that wildfire situation may occur.
Right.
Does that address your question, Commissioner?
Very good, thank you. I know there's been lots of work.
There's just one other thing I wanted to add, because, you know, this conversation does come up, I think, with just about every city that we've had joint meetings with. And, you know, I do acknowledge that I think there was some communication that could have been better. So I'm not saying that it was perfect. Certainly it was not. But I will also say, and having worked the call center and also having heard to people that work at 911 dispatch, and I think some of your faces also worked the call center with me. There was a lot of people calling that jammed up phone lines that really made me realize we need some education. I mean, I took several phone calls from people that just wanted to know the McDonald's had burned down, while the lines were busy when I was trying to help people establish if they were in a, you know, a level 1, a 2, or a 3. And several people called just curious, you know, wanting to know if McDonald's was still there. And so, you know, I think we do need to recognize that we do need some education to our public as well, that that is not important to know in that moment. You know, we need to make sure that we reserve those communications, you know, systems for people that really do need to know if they're in danger. And the curiosity questions can kind of wait for later, because then that, you know, frees up that resource for people that really do need help. So just something I, you know, kind of noticed. And I know our dispatch service received lots of calls like that as well. And so I think there is a public education piece to this as well, besides us working better together.
I would also
And
add,
like,
I forgot to mention that, sorry, Commissioner, that we are redoing our call center training with all of our public safety volunteer groups. Red Cross is also going to be incorporated in that, and we hope to have 100 public safety volunteers that will be in our after hours callback list that are refreshed, trained, know what to do, and would be able to come in. They may not be able to work a full 8-hour shift if we get them up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I promised them I'd only keep them for a short time, then let them go home. But I think we'll have a full levy of staff that will be available to assist that. And then also to Commissioner Jacobson's point about finding the right information, we did have a place for sort of active wildfire information on our county emergency management page, but honestly, it was buried. It was too hard to find. So one of the things that the public information officers and myself have done, we now have a page that's referred to as active wildfires. So as soon it's set up with all that information that you would think that one would need to know during an active wildfire, you can look at it today, it's there. And it says, as of 4/22, there are no fires. It will stay that way until a fire happens. And then we just start filling in the information. And then that will be linked to the very top of the county website by the public information officers. So when you go to the county website, it'll be right at the top, active wildfire. You can click on that, and then that will be the most up-to-date information from the public information officers.
I was just gonna add to Commissioner Jacobson's comments. When I was in the call center, I also took calls wanting to know if the McDonald's had burned, but I also took calls wanting to know if the Neatsu post office had burned. So again, effective use of resources and educating our friends in all our communities, I think could be beneficial. So anything else on emergency management? I see Councilor Mark, you have your hand up.
Well, yeah, just a little postscript there. And you know, my personal experience was I had no trouble finding the information I needed. I went to the county website. I also mentioned I told a heap about this after a city council meeting, but you know, our power was out, and a lot of people lost cell service. So I think they didn't really know what to do then. I think I took a little heat about was I pointed out that I have a couple of solar powered phone chargers. And so my phone's never lost power. I fortunately where I live, I never lost cell service. So I stayed connected. And the point I made at the council was, folks, you need to be prepared. You need to have these things, you know, be able to keep your communication active. But the thing is, not everybody can do that. And I realize not everybody either has the wherewithal or the technology or the know-how to do that. So it wasn't that the information wasn't there. The county did a great job of putting out information, but we had a large number of people who just didn't know how to access it. And that's where the education comes in. That's actually one reason why I think the electronic meter boards might be helpful because it could direct people to where to go. They can also, and this was a point that was made at the League of Cities meeting, could also alert people who are coming to the coast that there's a really big fire and this is not a good day to come. Maybe you can turn around. And just the other thing I want to mention, and this really goes to the McDonald's and the Yatsu post office question, which, you know, we're kind of making light of, but the fact that the fire was so close to the Yatsu post office, I believe, had a lot to do with why ODOT shut off the highway going north. And having the highway shut off going north while Highway 18 going east was shut off, this was a convergence of events that I don't think anyone anticipated, and it meant everybody had to go south. And you know, I mean, that might never happen again in our lifetimes, knock on wood. It was a rare event, but it was something to open our eyes and say, here's something we need to be aware could happen. And I want to say just one more thing, as our Chief Palmer pointed out in one of our after evacuation meetings. He said, you know, everybody got out. No one got hurt. No one got killed. There wasn't even an accident. It took longer than we hoped it would, but everybody got out safely. And there were other education events. People were taking both their cars. People were towing their boats. People didn't have gasoline in their tanks. There were all those sorts of things that, you know, when it comes to educating the public, those are all things that we could remind them of.
All right, any last questions? We've got a couple of items left on our agenda and we've got a little over 15 minutes. So any last comment, Jenny?
So I would just say thank you for allowing me an opportunity to talk about our programs. I appreciate that. And then lastly, I'm going to log off because I'm getting ready to do our last series of wildfire readiness presentations. Tonight is air quality considerations and preparedness with access and functional needs family members. So any opportunity that you have to promote these wildfire presentations that we've been doing during the month of May and June and the next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, pretty much the rest of the month, we will have a presentation for each individual fire district. So I believe, Lila, you've been invited, Ken's been invited, Mayor, when you're sworn in, I think you said Monday or whatever the day is, you should all have a calendar invitation because I've invited each city leadership to be able to participate with that specific geographical fire district area because your constituents may be on the call and they may have specific questions related to the city. So please look for that and hopefully you'll have someone to be able to attend. And then please do encourage people to watch the videos. They are recorded, they're on our website. They are very informational oriented and all the things that you talked today about wildfire readiness and preparedness and evacuation, notification, those are all things that we've discussed in a short 1 hour. You can really get yourself up to date. So thank you very much and thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to Health and Human Services. I believe our interim Public Health Director, Florence Porto, is here. And I assume if she talks about the COVID and vaccinations, that'll answer some questions, and I'm sure she'd be happy to answer others. But Florence, why don't you give us an update?
Good evening, everybody. So I thought that maybe I would take questions from people, unless you want kind of a status of where we at in cases and vaccination efforts. It's your.
I'm trying to ask it. Could you kind of just summarize where the county is as far as the percentage of vaccinations and where the state is and some of the anticipated changes once the state reaches that 70% level?
Yes, I would be happy to do that. So in terms of Lincoln County vaccinations, as you know, Lincoln County was amongst the first counties to be able to move into low risk on a permanent basis, and I believe we did that on May 21st alongside 5 other counties. And this is because we had reached 65% of our eligible population in King County being vaccinated, which was a really amazing achievement for us. So since then, we have continued to go along and vaccinate people. We are at this time at about 67.5%. So as you can see, the increase is very incremental. Right now we're going slow because the people we're vaccinating, we vaccinated everybody who wanted a vaccine, who had access to a vaccine easily, right? So now we're in the category of the population where maybe people have difficulties to access the vaccine, might not be speaking the language, might not have necessarily the time to access a vaccination event. So now we've completely switched our delivery model. As you may have heard, we've closed the fairgrounds. They have served us immensely, but at this time, the return on investment, if you want, doesn't work anymore. And also, because we want to reach those people who have not had an opportunity for a vaccine yet, we are going to people now. So really the motto is take the vaccine to where people work, where people play, where people pray, where people live, pretty much is the motto. So that's been pretty successful at this time. So of course, it takes more work, right? Or a different type of work, because there's a lot of coordination, outreach with various partners, making sure that some events are culturally responsive. So we need to make sure that we have interpreters and, for people. So it takes more work, and apologies, I have a 3-year-old. It's wanting to
Childcare activities.
Apologies, I'm gonna go to secure a banana for my son.
I was just gonna say, Florence, it's so refreshing. Usually it's my kids that interrupt commissioner meeting. At least it's someone else.
My daughter can't.
I'm so good at this spot. It's early in the meeting, it could still happen.
Early in the night.
Well, Florence, are there some questions that the counselors have specifically of Florence? I didn't mean to cut off your presentation, Florence. I was trying to give the counselors a chance to think, and you can wrap up your comments.
Yeah. So I know I was going kind of in the weeds a bit to kind of discuss the adjusted strategy that we've been having. To your second question, Commissioner, which was, can you discuss kind of like where we at in Oregon and what changes we can anticipate moving forward? So as you know, the governor has set this goal of 70% of eligible population in Oregon. Once we get to that threshold of people being vaccinated, there will be a lot of restrictions that will be lifted. Banana broke. Oh my God.
Now, we could go to Public Works and come back to Florence. I'm wondering if that might help her. Trying to step here. Okay, you're back.
All right. So when we reach the 70% of the Oregon population being vaccinated, we will see a lot of restriction lifted. Likely the mask requirements and the social distancing requirements. On our end, like even when we reach 70%, I would want to keep going, because the more people we get to access this vaccine, the more people are going to be, protected against COVID-19. So, what else?
Well, it might be a good point. Are there questions from city councilors?
And I just wanted to say, we've had a wonderful partnership with a lot of stakeholders and community partners, and really, North Lincoln Fire Department has been absolutely tremendous in the vaccination efforts from the very start. So I just wanted to give that shout out, and I'm really proud of those collaborations. That's been really tremendous, and we could not have done that on our own, for sure.
Questions from councilors? I might add that I have a every other week meeting with a representative from the governor's office, Leah Horner. And I believe that I'm safe in saying that the governor's hope is that when the state reaches a 90%, of course, the restrictions, masks, social distancing, the other limitations on businesses, that sort of thing, will be lifted, but also the emergency declaration would be lifted. And I think that's a major step in getting back to what will be the new normal. So I'm excited and looking forward to that 70% at the state level. Any other questions or comments for Florence? Otherwise, we'll move on to Director Kenyon in Public Works. All right. Thank you, Florence. Take care of that youngster, huh?
Yeah, we'll go do that.
All right. All right, Director Kenyon, I don't know if you have some comments or if there are questions from the councilors.
Good evening, commissioners and councilors. Roy Kenyon, Public Works Director for Lincoln County. I actually don't. I think I'm going to answer some questions, hopefully, because I didn't really have anything on the agenda.
Well, I'll confess, when I looked at this agenda, I said, something's missing, and I kept looking, and I said, oh, Logan Road isn't on the agenda for a change. Little humor. Any questions or comments from the councilors? Commissioner Jacobson.
I was just gonna say that, I kind of came into the end of Logan Road. You guys had already been working on that for quite a while, but before I got here. But I think about 2 weeks after we officially transferred it, I got a call for a complaint, and it was like, guess what? It's not the county's anymore. So I am glad we finally got that done.
I think both sides of the table are happy that that was finally resolved. Anything for Director Kenyon? If not, we can move on to other, and I think maybe Acting Mayor Casper has some thoughts there. Thank you, Roy, for being available. Appreciate it.
You bet. Anytime.
Yeah, I escaped Oregon and I'm down here in California, and I noticed the county in Sonoma County here is considering a polystyrofoam ban. Surprise, surprise, Lincoln City has already done that. And they're talking down here about all the cities, working together for this ban. And I was wondering if at the county level, if there's any discussion about all of our cities considering a polystyrofoam ban, so we could kind of coordinate and work together, because I'm on the advisory with sanitary waste advisory under Paul Sites, and they're working on a coastal character campaign for the whole county, which I think is exciting because it's a continuous flow of a certain direction. And I was hoping maybe that something like that could surface for the polystyrofoam ban. Have you heard any discussion at the county commissioner level about that?
Commissioner Jacobson has her hand up.
Yeah, so my understanding of this from a county umbrella, and Wayne can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's where I got the information from, is that the county would not be able to do a county-wide ban, just like we would not be able to do a county-wide plastic bag ban. An order we would do would only count in the unincorporated areas. So unfortunately, it would kind of have to go jurisdiction by jurisdiction in order for it to go, across the county.
The other thing too, along those lines, I don't know how many sources of, I'll call it styrofoam, are within the unincorporated areas. I know there's one grocery store, I believe in Lincoln Beach, but limited activities of that nature in the unincorporated areas. But I think certainly if the cities all start to get together, I'd be open to a conversation.
I just, tossing out a curious idea here, since we're working so well on the coastal character idea, which I'm very excited about, and seeing it follow through in all of the cities. That's
Now,
all.
Paul, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all.
I was just gonna say, Board of Commissioners heard a presentation from Paul on Monday, and it's an exciting program.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Any other items? We've got 3 minutes. Commissioner Jacobson.
Yeah, I just want to kind of give everybody a heads up that we are likely headed into a declared drought situation. We do have a drought, kind of an informal ad hoc drought committee that meets during the summer. We actually started meeting a whole month earlier this year than we previously do. Data coming from U.S. Geological Service and other agencies, Fish and Wildlife, both river discharge on selects and ALC are at historic lows. So it is not looking good. And the committee wanted to pause and take a week to do some really good outreach and make sure all of our water purveyors were aware and getting ready, or had curtailment plans kind of ready to go before a drought was declared. So I know that we're in the process of kind of reaching out to all the cities as well as smaller water systems, to kind of let them know to be ready. But if we keep, if we keep seeing the numbers and things that we're seeing now, it's very likely that in the next couple of weeks before July, we will need to declare a formal drought for Lincoln County. So just want to give everyone the heads up, that we're not headed for a good situation this summer in terms of water.
I might take a moment to just give an update on our Health and Human Services Department. Of course, there is the Federally Qualified Health Center in the DMV office up there at the north end of Lincoln City. We also have the school-based health center at the high school. And recently, of course, the county saw the retirement of Rebecca Austin, who was co-director of Health and Human Services, and Rebecca McBee Wilson, who is the other co-director. Her last day will be Friday. But the county has hired Jane Romero as the director of Health and Human Services. We've gone back to a single director organizationally. And Jane will be working with our personnel department and the Health Council, which has the legal responsibility, along with the Board of Commissioners, to hire the director of the Federally Qualified Health Center. So that's just a little bit that's going on in the HHS department, and of course affects the 2 locations in the Lincoln City area. But we're excited to have Jane Romero on board. She started June 1st. She did have a previously scheduled vacation. Otherwise, I'm sure she would have been here tonight. But she'll be back actually tomorrow, and looking forward to having her as part of our team. Any other last thoughts? It's 6:30. My cuckoo clock just cuckooed, so if the cuckoo clock is on time. All right, well, if there's nothing more, appreciate the time. I usually talk about the fact that these workshops are something that were initially, I think, conceived by former Commissioner Don Lindley, who's a good friend and a better golfer, still a good friend. And I think the value is obvious in that we've continued this tradition for many, many years. And always walk away with some areas that we agree to do some more work on, and helps facilitate effective communication so that we can cooperate and do a better job in representing the people that we both represent. So, any last comments, Acting Mayor Casper? Anyone else?
No,
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners, for your
Thank you. Take care, and we'll keep up the good work, all of us. Thank you. Have a good evening.
This conference is no longer being recorded.